Josh Hart is at a minimum one of the top 100 players on planet Earth. He was just grossly overused by Tom Thibodeau last year. He admitted as much today, and Mike Brown is not about to make the same mistake.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to the New York Knicks. My name is Gavin Schall. I'm a New York City native, and I'm a credentialed media member that's been covering this team for nearly a decade. Plus, I'm the Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast. You can check me out covering the league as a whole there every Saturday, and sometimes filling in like I did last night and on Locked On NBA Daily today. So be sure to check that out in case you missed it. And this is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 whole days a week. So be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, this is really exciting to say, I'm joined by one of our 2 new co-hosts here at Locked On Knicks, Kris Pursiainen. You might have seen his work before at Clutch Points at Knicks Film School, and of course, here on our Locked On Knicks airwaves, we get into Josh Hart acknowledging that he had Zippo left in the tank at the end of last season. Hear why Mike Brown is not about to let that happen again. Hear how it's going to help Josh. Then we dive into what to watch this preseason, including what the rotation will look like and what to expect out of Mike Brown's offense. All that and a whole lot more coming up right now on Locked On Knicks. All right, guys, as promised, I am joined by Kris Pursiainen. He is an NBA reporter for Clutch Points. He's also the newest part-time co-host of the Locked On Knicks podcast. Kris, I've said this before, but now it was friendship before. Now it's family. Welcome to the show, buddy. Appreciate you joining me twice a week, maybe more, maybe less. We're going to figure it out. Welcome.
Hey, absolutely. I've always loved appearing on your show. So it's really cool that it gets to be a regular thing. You know, it's not just a fling every now and then. You know, we're entering a more serious phase of our lives.
Look, man, I told you I got engaged in the last few weeks. This is the real one. This is my fiance's in the other room, and she's gonna.
I was gonna say, make sure you cut all the cords of her headphones before this airs. But hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm so glad to be addressing you guys as a co-host. That's really exciting. But of course, we know who's got the keys. Gavin will drive the car. I will keep my hands and feet inside the vehicle and try to behave.
The irony is I do not have a driver's license, but I'm glad you're trusting me. Anyways, we will do a full episode at some point that's just introducing, getting to know Kris, because I think you deserve that, and also I think people who have tuned in over the last decade and got to know me and Alex really well, I want them to know you really well. I want them to know our other new co-host really well. That'll probably be revealed sometime next week. I'm really excited for that. But Kris, we have a lot to get into today, buddy. We are talking what to watch from the New York Knicks this preseason, and I'll let you lay it out. We got a little bit of news, certainly like a eyebrow raising couple of quotes from Josh Hart today, because I wanted to open up talking about the rotation, and Josh sort of gave us the perfect impetus of that by very kindly saying, "I'm not playing that many damn minutes anymore."
Yeah, what an interesting follow-up. This feels like, you know, not just, this wasn't some like quote that was immediately put out there and blasted in the wake of the firing. Like, and now that he's gone, well, I didn't even like him anyway. Like, Josh knows he stood by his coach for however long he played for him, right? It was January.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah. So the infamous Villanova video of Sam Rose and showing Jalen Brunson the news that he had a new Knick teammate. And I think Josh Hart had no desire to come out and, you know, spurn the methods of Tom Thibodeau, but I'm almost curious if this is kind of like he was so set in that being how to do it because he wanted that to be who he was so badly, was the 48-minute reliable, stopgap. But like, maybe something about this energy, the training camp right now, working with Mike there at camp. And, I don't want to say that this camp will be in Terrytown every year, but like Tom Thibodeau had a tradition of going to South Carolina and making it like a team outing. The Knicks, both because they needed to get ready to travel to Abu freaking Dhabi, and also because it's Mike Brown's first season as head coach, I think just stayed local. And I think that allowed these guys to kind of get comfortable pretty quick. Like there was nothing to do but talk to each other. There's nothing to do but shoot around, but work on drills, get running up and down the court like Coach Brown wanted. So for Josh, I'm almost curious if this was like it took his head completely being out of the water and then the wind to dry him and dry his hair and everything for him to be like, oh, you know what? I actually don't need to constantly be drowning to feel motivated. I can just be disciplined. And that's something that, and we talked about this over text, like that back cut against the Pacers got so much vitriol pointed Josh's way, but that's like, he's the hustle guy. He's the motor guy. So for that to be one of the defining plays of the playoffs for him, like you almost want to think like it can't be his fault. There's no way that he just didn't pay attention. Hey, I've driven, I've written essays on 1 hour of sleep. I don't think I was my best writer or my best driver when I was so exhausted. I don't think I'm the best podcaster when I'm just waking up off of 1 hour of sleep. I prefer my 4 or 5 like this, but no, that I think it all just kind of came together and he's realizing now, hey, things don't have to suck for me to contribute. Like I can just do me.
And for people who don't know what we're talking about, here was the full quote from Steve Popper's piece in Newsday. It was obviously tough. I mean, it's tough whenever you go out there and you don't play how you want to play. But it's one of those things where I gave everything I had and I just didn't have anything left in the tank. It's frustrating, obviously, at times. That was the furthest I've been. Now I know to get to the next step, I've got to be better. So definitely sits with you, definitely changes your offseason routine. Now that's past, and we've got to move on, look forward to this year. Second part of the quote. From Mike Brown, which was kind of hinting at like what the solution to this will be. If you're watching on YouTube, it's up on the screen. I've got to help pace the players too. Brown said on Tuesday, that's one where I was fortunate, blessed, lucky to be in a couple back-to-back finals as an assistant at Golden State. Go a couple of times, we had long seasons. I feel like the next season is right there on you. But the biggest thing is trying to make sure you watch everyone's minutes instead of trying to chase games. Chase games is something Tom Thibodeau obviously did often. At times he refused to just like acknowledge that a game was done. Like when the Knicks were up by 25 points with 4 minutes left, it was like, Josh, you're staying in there until the 92nd part, till we get the ceremonial like Tyler Kolek 90 seconds to close out a game. But this is something we've discussed all offseason, right? That like Josh was overtaxed. I talked about his pre-All-Star splits versus his post All-Star splits. He averaged 3.5 more points per game before the All-Star break, shot 10% better from the field. He was all the way up at 37% from three, fell down to, or excuse me, he was up. He dropped off just a little bit from three, went from 34% to 32.5% from three.
There was Derek White discourse. It was like, I was tweeting myself like, hey, this is not the same caliber of season, especially in a modern shooting NBA, but this guy is doing the super sixth man in the starting lineup thing, and it's going really well, and he's having a career year. Like, he's having the best season of his entire career, and the taste that was left in our mouth was hot Teddy Grahams that have been under a car seat for 4 months. Like, how did we get from beautiful fresh fruit to expired dairy? Like, not good. Not good.
No, he was. I think it's under discussed how good he was to start the season. He was shooting close to 80% from the rim. He was top 10 in the NBA in that. Like even with the drop off, he still had like a career best season in terms of efficiency. And then you fast forward to that Pacers series, right? 8 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 45, 18, 80 splits. He did not like obviously had that huge rebound to secure. I think it was game 3, where he like flew in for the board. Maybe it was game 5. And no, it was game 3. And then I go back to 2023, right? The last time we saw him as a full-time bench guy where he played 25 regular season games for the Knicks, 24 off the bench. He was at 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2 stocks per game, which to me is like a real indicator of like, all right, how much extra juice does this guy have to like on top of being the top rebounding wing in the NBA, and on top of being an initiator, on top of being your engine in transition? Can he also trigger transition with his defense? He was doing that, shot it absurdly well, 59% from the field. This part's a little fluky, but on 2 threes a game, 52% from 3, 79% from the line. Like, you want to argue that was the best he's ever played? You want to argue the first half of last year was the best he's ever played? The point is, like, he is the ultimate energizer. He cannot be that when he's also having to lead the NBA in minutes. And I think even just beyond that, like, you're overtaxing him from a skill set standpoint, right? Like, he is not a 38 minute per game player on a championship caliber team. He's probably like a 25 to 31 minute per game player. And it seems like that's where Mike Brown plans to play him. We all heard about the runner's knee last year. I think we saw just the mental fatigue get to him. This is something our friend Schwinny Poo pointed out. You just noted with like the way it wasn't like it was the one back cut, but that was like a theme throughout the season.
I was just about
constantly. Yeah.
Oh, no, go for it.
No, I'm saying he was constantly getting back cut. He was constantly inattentive, sailing passes, mental mistakes. And as much as we talk about like the inherent structural issues to starting him and how he struggles when other teams put a big on him and put a wing on Cat, like it would have helped if you got the best version of Josh Hart in those minutes. And it's why like they can still get to that starting lineup this year. It just can't lead the NBA by more than 500 possessions than any other lineup, any other team plays.
Yeah, it's all about, scheme versatility. Like I talk about this all the time. The Celtics did not win the championship because they played 5 out. They won the championship because they put out 5 flavors of poison, and that's the one the Mavericks chose to drink. I was just about to bring Schwinn up, actually, our good friend Schwinny Poo. And the reason for that was because of this point that he kept making that really like put it in a sentence. Because I think a lot of the time people defended Josh Hart from what they felt was over criticism while acknowledging like criticism was needed. And then it becomes this thing where everyone's kind of just arguing nuance and vibes more so than like words meaning things. Schwinn put it really succinctly, which means really well to me, at least, right. But he was like, the team continues to treat Hart as with the same rotational importance as Brunson. No one's saying that the problem is the hard minute count.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he seems to be on the same standing as a top 10 basketball player. Mm-hmm. And that is a disservice to him and to the team and you kind of nailed it, right? When you said having to lead the NBA in minutes, no, we didn't. Like it was made to feel that way. Well, what else will we do? We have to have. No, you don't. Right? Like, and at least try other stuff. So, like you were saying, that starting lineup playing as much as it did, like no one's saying, oh, you shouldn't take what you feel are your 5 best players and play them together. But for even just look at the playoffs, right? Like Denver rode its starting lineup really hard. And still not as hard as New York did. Still not as long as the Knicks went, which was 96 games before deciding that the lineup that they played by far the most might not be good. That's bad.
Yeah. No, it was a mistake. And look, we talked about it a lot for all, like Tom Thibodeau, in some ways, greatest strength, greatest weakness was his rigidity, right? He was an oak that was supporting this Knicks organization that had a solidity to it, a competitiveness to it that was just not there in the past. And that brought the Knicks back. It also capped their ceiling because that like Josh Hart leading the NBA in minutes, exactly as you put it, like should not be a non-negotiable. And yet under Tom Thibodeau, like there is a little PTSD there where I'm like, wait, can you play him 28 minutes a game? Oh wait, yeah, you can. That's actually what every other coach has done with Josh Hart throughout his NBA career on teams that we should note did not have the championship expectations that the New York Knicks have. So I think that is an important distinction. And I am excited to see Josh Hart play a reasonable amount of minutes. But Chris, when we come back, I want to get into the rotational a little bit more, what we expect to see this preseason. We'll talk about that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you just don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because they give me so many different ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even follow the lines during the games. And most importantly, it just injects a little bit of extra juice into your Sundays. I'm a Giants fan. I've talked the last few times we discussed FanDuel about how depressing that's been since those 2 Super Bowls. Poor offensive line play, poor quarterback play. And now my one shining star, Malik Neighbors, is crushed, and at least for this season, and out of my life. So I need to find anything to make football just a little bit more exciting and have a little bit more investment on Sunday. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started right away. All right, what's up, guys? Gavin Schall, new co-host, Kris Pursiainen, talking preseason expectations. We did a little bit of a departure from that to start the show, just because I think we both felt those comments from Brown and Josh were really significant. But now I want to get into like more so what we're expecting from this preseason. Obviously, the biggest thing and the first thing we'll see Thursday morning from Abu Dhabi is the Knicks starting lineup. That is significant. I know you've had some reporting, including on the show, to the idea that will be Mitchell Robinson. We've all seen the jersey color seems to indicate it'll be Mitchell Robinson. We'll get confirmation if it'll be Mitchell Robinson. What I'm really curious about, I think almost more than the starters at this point, is just the minute distribution and what that potentially suggests about like a trade still coming, which is something people missed it last time you were on. We explored in depth. I will note that I don't expect game 1 to be a great indicator of that. I went back before we did this episode and just went through the minutes distributions on the Sacramento Kings in last year's preseason. In game 1, he played the starters 14 to 19 minutes apiece, and then he played 11 guys off the bench between 8 to 21 minutes. So game 1, you're mostly looking for the starters. You're not going to get any real indicators about the rotation. But what I like from Mike Brown is it is a slow buildup to what should be like the standard for him. Second game in the preseason, starters play 25 to 27. 6 bench guys play 10 to 21. Game 3, regular starters play 28 to 30. 5 guys off the bench play double digits. Game 4, regular starters play 24 to 37. Most of those guys in the 30s. Only 3 guys off the bench see double digit minutes. So I think by game 3 or 4, we're going to get kind of a realistic look at this rotation. And again, this is another area where I'm getting over Tom Thibodeau PTSD, like the viability of him actually playing 10 guys. And you hear in the preseason, a lot of coaches seem to be very optimistic about their depth. They say they'll play 10 guys, and then they don't actually do it in the regular season. The Knicks, by all indicators, if they don't make like a trade, which again, we both think is a possibility, I don't know how they don't play 10 guys, because you didn't bring Jordan Clarkson in not to play him. You didn't bring Malcolm Brogdon in not to play him. Deuce McBride is going to play. Josh Hart is going to play. Mitchell Robinson's going to play. Gershon Yabusele is going to play a role. Like, I don't know if there's an odd man out here. I think we might just genuinely get a 10-man rotation unless there is that trade.
Yeah, I mean, at media day, Mike Brown, it wasn't even sass. It was almost just like setting the tone that you can take him at his word. When he was asked about the rotation, and he immediately goes, yeah, I mean, if you look at my career, I play 9.5 to 10 guys. Mm-hmm. And I had someone ask, when I tweeted that quote out, like, what the hell does 9.5 guys mean? And it's like, in a way, what it sounds like it's all scheme and matchup based. So say someone's injured and he's going up against a team that plays a lot of guys, and he thinks they're going to need fresh legs. Okay, maybe a Kevin McCullough Jr. gets a call up for the night, right? But if they're playing a team that maybe they don't think is going to be an easy game or anything, and it's a really big matchup against Boston on a Wednesday night at the Garden or whatever it is, okay, then maybe you see 9. But like 7 isn't in the equation. Like that 8 isn't a number, he said, but you can understand if Josh Hart needs to sit a game with the finger, and then right before the game, someone falls ill. You could understand an 8-man rotation, but like he very clearly said 9.5 to 10, not 9 to 9.5, 9.5 to 10. Yeah. I think that was intentional based on what you just said. Now, if the Knicks did not grab both Shamet and Brogdon, okay, I could see Brunson, Bridges, OG, Cat, Mitch, Deuce, Hart, or Deuce, Clarkson, Hart,
Yeah, I mean,
Yabusele.
that's the thing. You're at 10, only playing one of those guys. You're at 11 if you play both of them.
And so, like, yeah, like Shamit's not even in the equation when we're talking about a 10-man rotation, which is the point, I think. That is the point of bringing someone like Landry Shamit back is, hey, if we had a mascot, they would have gotten hurt in 2024. He would have strained something, or she would have strained something, or maybe both, maybe a Mr. and Mrs. Met situation, and they go down together doing a potato sack race. They would have gotten hurt somehow. They would have gotten hurt somehow because, oh my God, everyone was getting hurt that season to the point where Alec Burks is like this playoff savior. 5 good games in a row against the Indiana Pacers. That is nothing to sneeze at. Like, they're just not in that situation anymore. Like now the guy who would get elevated into the rotation was in their playoff rotation last season. So this is depth. I think this is less about a criticism of last year's coaching staff or roster, more about the fact that they traded 2 top 6 or 7 rotation guys for 1, Randall and Devo for Cat, the literal day before media day. I think it had a little bit more to do with that, but like now you're seeing this Knicks front office with an offseason to breathe after their cap hijinks, bringing in 4 rookies, getting 1 to take under the recommended rate so that they could fit Bridges and Towns in the equation. Like this is the ripple effect. You know, this is the economy starting to show the policy changes from years before.
Do you think we see multiple starting lineups, or does Mike Brown pick one and roll with it? Because to your point on him saying like, you can trust me, like he said the starting lineup is not decided, it's not settled. And I believe him in the sense that he is like open to seeing something that blows him away. I don't believe him in the sense that I think he is a very strong preconceived notion in this front office. Even before they hired him, had a very strong preconceived notion of what they wanted the starting lineup to be. And barring anything dramatic that will ultimately be the starting lineup, I personally don't think that should prohibit you maybe trying out 2 or 3 during the preseason. Obviously, there's finite information you can gain from that. The team you're playing might not be playing their regular starters, but to me, like that type of experimentation, like, and I hope that's a theme throughout the season, certainly doesn't hurt. But what's your expectation on that?
If you were the head of HR or even like managerial at a company and there was an opening and you already knew who you wanted to fill that opening with internally, would you tell everyone else not to bother applying, or would you have an open competition? That's basically it. I completely agree with you. I do think he knows the lineup he would like to start game 1. I also think that if the evidence is overwhelming in preseason that that's a bad idea, he's not going to do it just because it's what he thought he wanted to do. And I'm not implying that Tom Thibodeau would have done that either. My point is just like Tom Thibodeau would come to the table with what you knew the first 20 games were going to look like. And then after that change was made, I could see Brown putting out 2 different starting lineups in the first 6 games. Like, not just, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, but maybe 3, and then, maybe an injury or something makes him go with another lineup, and then he sticks with it for a couple games just for the sake of seeing it out. I think Tom Thibodeau was always willing to try things, give players opportunity. I think back to Cam Reddish being kind of shoehorned into the rotation just to see what would happen, what he could do. Even if you think Reddish is the antithetical Thibodeauian basketball player, like, Tom gave him a shot, and he gave him a real one in the regular season. I think Brown is less giving these shots to make sure he's right about something, but, and be willing to be wrong. I think it's more about, I'm genuinely curious to see how this goes. So I think you do see several starting lineups this season, not just because of injury, but maybe they make a strategic, intentional tweak or 2 as the year goes on. That said, I'm still of the belief that Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, Robinson is what is, calling to him at a spiritual level. Like, I reported when he got the job that, and I don't know or think this is the reason why he got the job, but I can tell you with confidence that he was the candidate of them all that was highest on the offensive pairing of Brunson and Towns. Now, when you weigh that along with his comments about we're going to protect the rim, we're going to, like, you kind of get a sense of, he sees Cat and Yabu as these dynamo offensive weapons that he can deploy however he likes, but there's a tone he'd like to set. There's a foundation he'd like to establish too.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last time, I'm fairly sure, but it's important to remember that like it's fairly likely Mitch won't play back-to-backs. It seemed inevitable that Mitch will miss a couple weeks this season. Like what is the pivot point? And if he really is invested in Brunson and Cat together, does that mean Cat at the 5? And does that mean you start Deuce or you go crazy and you start Yabu? Like I'm fascinated to see that. And I'm just like, as much as the starting lineup is a curiosity, it's going to be really interesting to see just what lineups does he get to throughout games? How quickly does he get to those lineups? And a complicating factor there will be all these guys learning a new offense, and one that is probably a little bit more intricate, a little bit more action oriented than what they ran in the past. We're going to talk about that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, well, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, raise his hand. Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. What I absolutely love about Monarch Money is it takes away some of the anxiety I have over organizing this, putting it all together, and putting together a coherent plan for my financial future. It stresses me out. Monarch Money makes it incredibly easy. It allows me and my partner to get on the same page, which obviously can be a source of a lot of discontent if you're not on the same page. Monarch Money absolves that. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with our code LOCKEDONNBA. All right, what's up, guys? We're back. Gavin and Chris breaking down preseason expectations for you. Let's get into Mike Brown's offense a little bit, because that was, I think, at least amongst reporters, but it also seemed like something that Mike and his staff was, and the players were like kind of consciously trying to push, that like we are going to be playing at a little bit of a faster pace. There will be, I think, more like multi-action sets, right, where you get like a double drag into a stagger, into a pin down. Like they're going to be some Princeton elements that should help your stars like get easier shots without having to do all the work themselves. That should leverage Karl Anthony Towns as like a top of the key passer, a spot we didn't see him a ton last year, but maybe as an elbow passer where Domantas Sabonis like to operate a lot. There should be more pace, more stylistic diversity. And Mike Brown kind of acknowledged that like there will probably be like some initial frustrations there with that. Like I forgot to take a screenshot of it, but I'll read the quote. Our staples, pace, spacing, paint touches, quick decisions, ball reversals, are automatic reads, play conceptually without calls, hard to guard, implementing, going to take some time. It's the preseason. Guys are going to get frustrated. We can't skip steps. I'm paraphrasing slightly on that. But what are you most interested? What are you most looking forward to in terms of Mike Brown's offense?
Definitely like the feel, two things I'd say. One, the feel that you used to get when it felt like the quickly led bench unit was such a stark contrast with regard to joy. And just like, okay, I'll put it like this, because I'm the analogy agonizer. Would you rather take a class of something you care about with a teacher with a 1 on Rate My Professor, or a class of something you don't with a teacher with a 5? Like, I personally am taking the class I don't care about with the passionate, educated, informed, solid teacher every time. That's kind of like, I get that vibe with this Mike Brown team, where it's like, maybe every decision he makes isn't going to be perfect. Maybe if you go and weigh him pound for pound against Tom Thibodeau, the way so many are going to burden him with throughout this season, maybe he doesn't want to win every game as badly as Tom did. But there is something to just this guy's excited to see the ball zip around the court, see his players zip around the court, for everybody to get some love, but also to see Jalen Brunson with that thing in his hands down the stretch. Like he is either really tapped into Knicks Twitter, or the fans that have been shouting from the rooftops for years that they feel like there are more modern ways to go about deploying this talent, had something there. Maybe they didn't need to be decade credentialed NBA coaches to make that suggestion. Maybe they all were accidentally right. Maybe all of you that wanted more freedom and ball movement and fewer minutes, maybe you're all right for the wrong reasons. The point is, it felt at some point like the Knicks, and I don't think this is what was happening, but I think for fans, it's understandable that it feels a bit like the Knicks were almost just doing stuff for the sake of showing they could do it that way, even though you said they couldn't. It felt to some fans, I believe, as someone who really likes to stay tapped in, especially on the Knicks Twitter side of things, so I understand what fans want to read, what fans think, what stories are being talked about, what aren't, that I could kind of, do some extra work on. Like, it felt like fans felt purposefully ignored. And I'm not saying that this is the Packers where they're the owners of the team, but they're the fans. Like, if I remember when hashtag call up Trey Burke was like flooding the Knicks comments on social media. Eventually they did it. I'm not going to say that I think the fans had no impact on that, So I get the sense with Brown's offense that excited new vibe is going to transcend through the screen, that you're going to see bench units of Brogdon, Clarkson, McBride, Yabusele and Towns, or Anunoby and Towns, that just fly up and down the court, that are taking a three-pointer less than 7 seconds into the shot clock, like every time down the court. Like, this is going to be fun. And maybe it won't be better. Maybe it won't be a championship, but it will be fun. And it's new, which is fun in and of itself. The other thing is the less is moreification of Jalen Brunson's offensive role, which I wrote about right after media day, because I thought it was no coincidence that once Fred Katz asked Mike Brown about that, it was like every beat reporter was asking every player that came up after what they thought about that. Almost felt to me like the other beat guys kind of had heard the same thing, that there was plan for more off-ball usage. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, well, he said it, now we can really attack it. Because, Hart, Cat, guys are all getting asked about it. Cat did not get this name planted in the question the way Hart did. Hart brought up Steph Curry because it was asked in the question, Curry type of role. Cat said on his own, unsolicited, my mind goes to Steph Curry and what they do for him, screening and getting him moving off the ball. And then the other side of the same coin is when Brown was asked about, without crapping on who had the desk before him, what are some things that he kind of wants to immediately change? And something he brought up was, when you dribble, drive, penetrate, or when you collapse the teeth of the defense, whatever cliche you want, and then you kick out, like, keep moving. Go get back up to the top of the key. Take the long way around. Bring a defender with you. Bring two. Let's see. But you don't find out unless you run, damn it. And that felt really intentional. For him to be like, hey, something I want to change is we're not just going to run an action and then have that be it. And if you remember talking about those same Knick fans from earlier, that was a huge complaint from Knick fans in the playoffs, was it felt like the team had plan A. And then if plan A didn't work, they all just kind of stood like Mitchell Robinson at the top of the key, waiting for a guard to come take the ball from him. Yeah. Literally and metaphorically. Now there's going to be 2 or 3 actions before a possession is over, assuming Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson, those guys are pretty good at offensive rebounding, right? So yeah, maybe there will be some second, some third opportunities. And the Knicks will make the most of them, instead of being like, hey, we got the ball back. That's pretty cool. Check out this ISO. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something I want to explore further. Like when we get a little deeper into some of the core tenets of Mike's offense and what he's going to bring to the table. Like, you are certainly, like, pace is very much something I'm looking out for, both in transition, but maybe even more so in the half court. And it was something at times under Tom Thibodeau, I think, again, partially as a reflection of the minutes, and especially in the playoffs where guys were just dog tired and were walking up the court and were botching inbounds because they were mentally exhausted. The Knicks last season, 26th in pace. The Kings were 13th at the time that Mike Brown was fired. And I think that is a remarkable number given the DeMar DeRozan of it all and the Domantas Sabonis of it all, right? Those are very much not like largely pace-oriented players. Or like DeMar likes to take his time, get to a spot, bump, fade away, rise up, drain the jumper all the way to 25,000 points and probably a spot in the Hall of Fame. Like Sabonis, obviously, like I think preferred that Princeton infrastructure where he could operate as a hub and guys could cut off him and he could hit guys on back cuts for layups and dunks. The fact that the Kings were still 13th, some of that is a De'Aaron Fox stat, right? Having the fastest point guard on planet Earth helps that. Jalen Brunson, he could get as slim as he wants, BMI of 1 if he wants to. Like he'd be dead. They're not going to have that in transition, but I am looking for just like scheme-induced pace in the half court. I think is something. Even if there are mistakes and there are times, I'm sure they will just kind of like revert to, all right, Jalen, bail us out. This possession isn't going very well. All right, Kat, take like a contested 26-footer. This isn't going very well. I'm curious to see how quickly they're able to implement that, what the level of frustration is, and how smooth it looks. To your point, like over multiple units. And my inclination is probably it'll look better with the bench than it will with the starters, just because they don't have the Brunson part of it to fall back on. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up with Kris right there. But if you're enjoying the conversation, fear not. I am planning on dropping part 2, just a little bonus part, only going to be about 15, 20 minutes with Kris tomorrow morning, talking just some of the other quick hitters and things we're looking for in preseason ball. And then Kris and I will have you covered for a recap of Game 1 in Abu Dhabi. Knicks basketball just a day away. We are so close. I can't wait to talk about it with all you guys. Until then, be good. I'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.